Creatures of the night, it's your girl Tati. Let's talk about part two of Who Killed WCW. Now we're at the point where WCW are at their most profitable. They're really successful. They are literally beating Monday Night Raw in the ratings war for 83 weeks straight. So now they're in the middle of that. And here is Eric Bischoff getting a call from the network. And the network's like, bro, we see how successful Nitro is and how well you guys are doing in the ratings. You're beating our competition. We're going to give y'all another time slot for another live show. And this obviously became Thunder. Now, Eric Bischoff claims that he thought from the get-go that this was a bad idea. So instead of saying something, he just decides to roll with the punches and let it be what it was. Now, what he said was an issue with that was that people were kind of tired of seeing the same motherfuckers from Monday being on Thursday. Now, aside from that, they also did house shows Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So it was just the same people going over and over again, where it's just like there wasn't no clear distinction between Nitro and Thunder. So he came up with an idea saying that they needed a face of Thunder. They needed someone to be over there where it would definitely show the difference between the two shows. They needed a face over there. Who they end up signing? Bret the Hitman Hart for $2.8 million to be, I guess, the face of Thunder. Now, they bring his ass over, and I have to say, and I know a lot of people would agree, his time in WCW was extremely lackluster, and the best of his career was already behind him. The show, they was already pretty much leading a circus over there, and Bret Hart, obviously being spiteful of WWF and everything, wanted to take his career somewhere else, but kind of didn't really notice what he was getting into. And they really didn't have no plans for him. He would sometimes even show up to the show, and they're just like, hey, Mr. Hitman, we're sorry that we brought you all the way over here for your troubles. We'll pay for your flight to go back home. We don't have anything for you to do. And when he was actually part of the shows, it was nothing but bullshit and nothing that really added any values to the show. People just wanted to see Bret, but there was nothing to truly look forward to when seeing Bret on TV. So now things are not really making sense with the storylines. Everybody and their mama was in a stable. There were stables within stables of stables and stables. And it was just like, okay, what the hell is going on here? So then, April 13th, 1998, for the first time out of almost, 2 years, we finally had Raw beat WCW in the ratings war for Nitro. So now, here is Eric Bischoff pretty much scrambling in his panties, like, what are we going to do now? We got to rebuild the company because obviously people are starting to prefer Raw over what we're doing. And rightfully so. A lot of foolishness was going on. So what was the answer for WCW? Bill Goldberg. Bill Goldberg obviously was a former football player turned wrestler because he had so many injuries from playing football, so he decided to be a pro wrestler. Till this day, I really don't understand. How is it that so many wrestlers go from playing football or other sports and then go on to doing wrestling because they were too injured to do those things? And I'm just like, what? Weird. Anyway, obviously the fans loved him. He had this undefeated streak going on that people really did get behind. Goldberg was cool as fuck. I remember being a child and just thinking, okay, this guy is pretty cool. And a lot of guys, men, children, they gravitated towards Goldberg, and they didn't necessarily mind that he had an undefeated streak. However, the wrestlers at WCW had an issue with this because he was green as grass and he wasn't pretty much skilled to be a wrestler. Now, if you watch back these matches from this streak, they were all pretty much squash matches for the majority. There were squash matches, and he really didn't have to do anything. And he obviously had this move where he would just like tackle someone, and when he would do that, he would often injure the wrestlers. But a lot of wrestlers didn't want to get in the ring with him. Now, according to Bill, he's just like, these motherfuckers were just jealous of me because obviously everybody loved me and the company was pushing me to the freaking moon. And when every time Kevin Nash is talking about Bill Goldberg, I'm just like, damn, the tension is just really thick. I feel like he has to hate Goldberg, right? Doesn't he hate Goldberg? Like, you could tell in what he's saying. Now, Bret obviously has negative things to say towards Bill Goldberg as well, too. Obviously saying that he wasn't a skilled wrestler, which is a football player who came in and got in the ring and often hurt people. So this is something that a lot of people were saying on the shows. However, people was really behind Goldberg, and he was just getting more and more popular as this streak continues. Now, there are some discrepancies when it comes to the streak of him actually losing a match number 5 in the streak in a house show. But for whatever reason, the history books like to pretend that didn't happen. But that's another video at another time. So now he's getting really, really popular and the fans are enjoying him. So here comes Eric Bischoff getting a call from Hogan. And Hogan's like, you know what? Something, brother. We're going to put over Bill Goldberg. And we're going to do that at the Georgia Dome. Issue with this was, at first, it looks really, really great. You got almost 45,000 people at the Georgia Dome. It's sold out. Everybody wants to see Bill Goldberg, who's obviously from Georgia. They want to see him take that title off of Hulk Hogan. At this point, anyone other than Hulk Hogan should be having this title. So it seems really successful. Everybody's really happy. Perfect place to do this. However, in actuality, it really wasn't. Now, you're giving a pay-per-view quality match on a regular Nitro episode. And this was often an issue with WCW, where instead of giving us something for a pay-per-view, they just gave it for free. Now, and seeing how successful as that was, the network was like, y'all motherfuckers gave this for free. We should have been charging people for this. Look how successful this was. Now, while that's happening, we have the Attitude Era that's already brewing up, and that obviously is an issue for WCW. So now, they talk briefly about the Attitude Era. Eric Bischoff says the Attitude Era was basically an exact replica of what they were already doing in WCW, but WWF did it better. Now, we had The Rock in this for whatever reason. Like, I know a lot of people, so a lot of people from the first episode have been complaining that The Rock really wasn't needed for this, but I mean, I'm neither here or there about it. It is what it is. He's just basically letting us know that while he was in WWF, by the time his matches were over, he'd already be in his hotel room watching WCW. And he often wondered, like, what was it that they were doing that was obviously better than them during that time? That's literally all he had to say on the episode. Now, here we have July 1998. Eric Bischoff gets into the meeting with these business executives, and they're saying that, you know, we've been successful. We like how things been going, but we're at the point where we really want to cater to the families and the children. And they really wanted it to be a family show. So they wanted to take down, I don't want to say a notch, but by a lot, all the raunchy shit that you were seeing on WCW and make it more of a family show. They had already had children and their families watching it, but they wanted the programming itself to be catered more to those children. And obviously a family setting. Now, Eric Bischoff said he was against the idea, but once again, not fighting the executives about it. And what he thought was a better idea was to pretty much go and feed into the mind of Ted Turner and just be like, hey, you know wrestling, I know wrestling. These people don't know what they're talking about. This whole thing about catering to families, we're already doing that with what we're doing. So if the parents don't want the kids to watch, they don't have to watch. And during this time, there was a lot of foolishness going on, not just in WCW, but also WWF, where a lot of times families did not find what they were watching to be family friendly for the children. So Eric Bischoff's wife said during this time that he became from being a positive person to being a really negative person. And he was extremely unhappy with working at WCW at this point, because now the network was pretty much getting in the way of what he thought that he should be doing to make the company successful. So then cue in our homie, big sexy Kevin Nash, who goes over to Eric Bischoff and said, let me take that load off your shoulder and let me book the show. And he lets it happen. So now Kevin Nash is booking Nitro. And it's a lot of foolishness. He's doing a lot of things that pretty much puts him and his friends at an advantage. And a lot of that stuff doesn't even make sense. This is an issue that I believe that is going on in AEW at this point, because now you have people who are active wrestlers over there in AEW who are EVPs who are putting themselves in favorable positions with tag titles, and they're not even defending those things. Let me not get into it. But You guys know the drill. Obviously, this is not a good thing because the show is taking a real bad hit because they are looking out for themselves rather than really trying to elevate the show after they've already been beaten by the WWF in these ratings. So now, here is Kevin Nash who comes up with this idea that he's going to have a match with Bill Goldberg. And they're at the point here where they're looking at, how can I say, so Nash keeps saying that Bill Goldberg is not a really great wrestler, and when he had his match with Goldberg, Goldberg ends up messing up. He ends up hurting Nash, and Nash is just like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And Bill Goldberg even admits that even at that time is when he finally realized that, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and he's kind of scared because he's like, "Look at Kevin Nash, look at me. This guy could really hurt me if he really wanted to." He ends up obviously winning this match. But at that point, he realized that he needed to smarten up because now he's seeing people don't really like me in this company. They don't think I'm a legit wrestler. And matter of fact, it seems like a lot of jealousy going on here. So now he has to really look out for himself. Goldberg continues his undefeated streak. And now we have Nash and Goldberg again, but this time at Starrcade. So WCW's at the point where just like, okay, the streak needs to be broken. All good things come to an end. And we need somebody who's believable to be able to beat that streak. So who they pick? Obviously Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash is looking at him, booked himself into that situation, by the way. And now here he is saying, people wanted to believe that whoever beat him is this worthy guy. So obviously he puts himself to it. And in order to win that match, this dude is going to have his friend Scott Hall come out with a stun gun, and he uses it on Bill Goldberg, and that obviously helps him, takes the win at Starrcade, and Nash is champion. And then he has the nerve to say, "Oh, if you watch that match back, you would see that I'm over as fuck." And I'm just like, Kevin, are you serious? You were over as fuck in this match? I don't think so. So now Goldberg has lost the title, lost the streak, and they don't have no creative plans for him. So what do? They do the cliche thing, and it's supposed to be a rematch. Nash comes on the mic, basically goes on to say, "All right, Goldberg, me and your ass in a rematch for the title." So then, here we are, January 4th, 1999. Raw is taped as usual, and WCW Nitro is live. Now, for whatever reason, Hulk Hogan has inserted himself into this story, and he goes on to want to face Nash for the title. So then they're both in the ring, and this motherfucker goes ahead and to proceed and pokes Nash in the chest, and Nash just throws himself onto the mat. 1, 2, 3. Hulk Hogan is the champion, and we have our infamous finger poke of doom moment. For what reason? No clue why anybody in their right minds over there would even say that this was even a good thing to put on TV, period. Now, according to Nash, the whole thing was that if anybody, Nash, if he's going to lose the title to anyone in the company, it might as well be someone from the NWO so they can keep the title within the group. Are you fucking kidding me? Now, to make things worse, this very same night, they end up announcing on commentary that the spoilers for WWF Raw. And for the main event, we had The Rock versus Mankind for the WWF title. And this was Mankind's first time actually winning the title. People had already felt like he was a very likable guy. People thought that he was deserving of the title, so people wanted to see him win. When they go on to say that that was going to happen for the main event, motherfuckers had changed the channel from Nitro to Raw because nobody wanted to see that. You're giving us bullshit already. We might as well flip the channel to find something better to watch. People liked Mankind. And I think another thing too is that people didn't realize within WCW that despite that they were doing better ratings at some point in comparison to WWF, that they shared the same fans. I remember as a kid literally flipping channels between Raw and Nitro, or at some point we got an extra TV in the house and we were just running from room to room to see certain matches or different segments because the shows were actually pretty entertaining to us during this time. And I don't think that they realized that they shared the same fans. So people just changed the motherfucking channel to see something much better, which was seeing someone like Mankind, who was really deserving to win that WWF title. Now, Kevin Nash is going to sit there on this show and say, yeah, we made a lot of mistakes, but the checks cleared. You got paid. That's what mattered. That is just so crazy. Now, Eric Bischoff, he's at that point where he's crying about the network again on the show. And he goes on to say that, they were so successful that the network ended up taking money from WCW budget and putting it onto other shows that they had on the network. So a lot of the quality of things that they had going on in that show took a hit because they took the money from their budget. Now, then came people finding out about how much the wrestlers were getting paid in WCW. A lot of these guys were definitely getting paid more than they should have been. A lot of people was getting paid 7-figure salaries. And then there were a lot of people who many people didn't even know was even on the roster. They were getting paid and just to stay home and not do anything on TV. Now, this led into a investigation onto Eric Bischoff for misappropriation of funds, basically just giving out big contracts because, well, the money was there and he couldn't do that. They did the investigation and there was no concrete evidence against Eric Bischoff, so there really wasn't anything that they can do. But at that point, Eric realized that he had a target on him and that they're probably going to try to get rid of him. So now here we are, Starrcade 99. We have Bret the Hitman Hart versus Bill Goldberg. Y'all already know what this is about. The one reason why Bret Hart absolutely hate Bill Goldberg. Now, they end up having their match. And according to Bret, prior to them having their match, Bret offers to Goldberg to teach him how not to hurt anybody in the ring. Now, I don't know if they actually practiced together or if he ended up teaching him anything before the match. They don't say, but that's what he said that he ended up offering to Bill Goldberg prior to that. Now, before they got into the ring, Bret told him one more time, like, motherfucker, you're not going to hurt me tonight, right? And Goldberg says, no, I know what I'm doing. They get into the ring. And there's a part here where you see Goldberg telling Bret something. We obviously don't know what he's saying, but Bret and Goldberg confirm that he said, watch out for the kick. Now, and he ends up swinging him towards the rope. And then here is Bret coming back towards him. And Goldberg kicks him right in the face. It looks like Bret wasn't ready for it. But according to both these guys, yes, he said it, but it was, according to Bret, this was never planned to be part of the match, so he didn't necessarily anticipate it, even though Goldberg said it seconds before he did it. Goldberg said that's a motherfucking lie. We've been talked about this kick in the match, and for whatever reason, he forgot. This ends up having Bret being concussed, and he has a brain injury, and this ends his career. And you guys know that since then, Bret Hart has made a career out of hating Bill Goldberg from this. Now, meanwhile, Ted Turner has merged with another network, and he is losing more and more power within the network. So things are not looking good for WCW since it seemed like everybody already wanted wrestling out to begin with. So then, summer of 99, Eric Bischoff gets a call, and he was told to go home. Now, they was preparing for a pay-per-view that weekend, and he's like, well, you know what? Yeah, I'll go home after the pay-per-view. Right now, we're getting ready for this. And it was just like, no, buddy, you're fucking fired. Go home. Now, he ends up going home, and he's shocked, but he's also relieved at the same time that he's fired. Now, we end off things with that, and for next episode, we're going to have our bro, Vince Russo, be the topic of the next episode, which is part 3. This is going to be so nauseating. So I can hear Vince Russo's voice. He's just so freaking annoying to me. I'm already over it. This episode I think was really great. A lot of information that I think was really necessary to give here. Even though this was a little bit more of a focus on the Attitude Era, they still kind of didn't talk about the Attitude Era. It was more of what WCW did to kind of counter that. And I think a lot more information could have been given here for this time frame. We still got 2 more parts here. Like I said, the next one's going to be about Vince Russo. And then obviously that last episode is going to be that last, year or so, or the last few days of WCW, which is going to be really interesting to see. Really great show. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out. I think it's worth the watch. Guys, thanks so much for watching my review. And I'll be back with everything else that I do throughout the week. You know the drill. Like and subscribe.